Welcome back to Get With The Programming. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grumler.
Wolverine.
In today's show, we're predicting the programming of the CrossFit Games. Who else are we going to have on?
Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good looking?
Legitimately, like, how many curls and push-ups do you do before you get on these?
Yeah,
events?
jerk.
Like, what is going on with your arms right now?
Shredded.
What is that?
Is he thinking, or can you not hear us right now, JR?
JR, we can't hear you.
He's just incredibly stupidly good looking, but can't hear anything.
All right, well, maybe he'll join the show here in just a little bit. I mean, we don't even need him to talk. He's just here for eye candy. JR, can you hear us? No? Okay, well, we're talking to you.
Go back to your phone.
We are... We have a lot of predictions to get to today, and they all stem from every announcement that has come out from the CrossFit Games, from Dave Castro, from Adrian Bosman, from athlete interviews that we've seen so far. And there's a lot that we know, but the little that we don't could have massive impacts on what the programming is actually going to be at the CrossFit Games. So we have a lot to get to. And as we go through this we have what? Oh, here he is. Hey, dude. Well, you look good either way.
Everything but sound, so no, we're good.
All right. That's okay. You still look good. You still sound good. But as we're going to go through the prediction show of the finer details that could be, maybe details that we hope are not going to be, depending on the event that we're talking about, teams or individuals. One of those will center a lot around Chad, just for me personally, right? And the word twist does it worries me if it's too much, but if it's not, we'll see. But we got a lot to get to. When we're done, all of you guys stick around, because Pedro's Around the Whiteboard is coming up in 90 minutes. If you just stay where you're at, it should take you right to the show. You don't even have to move. You don't even have to leave. Just make sure you guys subscribe before you go. Give us a thumbs up and then bounce over there. And, one day JR will stay on for more than 2 minutes at a time
Dude, that's so
for the show. But Bill, we are, 3 weeks away from the CrossFit Games?
I know, dude. It doesn't even seem... Right? Yeah. Like how... For just a moment, just think about the season, how fast... Like, it seems like it's been forever, and then all of a sudden it's like it's literally here. It's kind of like Christmas time. It always does that. Big build up, and it's like, oh my God, it's here already.
Yeah, it's like, it's the dead time between, Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
You're just waiting, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I didn't buy presents.
Right, yeah. And right now it's like December 15th.
Dear Amazon.
Right?
Whatever it takes. That's usually the button I hit on the 23rd of December. I don't care what the shipping costs. It's just the whatever it takes to get it on time button. But we got a few topics, and we'll try to go in order of events, and we'll start with the run swim. Now, if you guys don't subscribe to or follow the Barbell Spin on Instagram or their website, you are in the dark. The amount of content in what is perceived to me as real-time cognitive thoughts of announcements or investigation or what could be, or maybe we predicted this. You guys got to go follow the Barbell Spin. It's insane. The amount of stuff that they have done in the last 3 weeks of, we got close to that guess, or we did guess it, or this is what the run course is going to look like. It's fantastic. And so I'm not going to venture too far away from their Instagram page, because it is chock full of discussion topics. And the first one we're going to talk about is not only what the run swim could be, but what the course might look like as well. And the ish distance, we always put ish when they were measuring distance. The one time they tried to nail down the distance, they missed it. So we'll go back to the ish.
3 measures and still missed.
Yeah, 5K meters, 5K yards, who knows, right?
Whatever.
And it says 4 miles-ish, and it's going to be at a lake. I was texting back and forth, because usually when something comes up, I'll be texting Bill and I'll be texting JR, and we should probably just get in a group text every time we do that. But I had an idea of like, hey, I think it's just going to be a run around the lake in a certain point and then just swim back to the starting point where you're at. And JR, do you remember me texting me? I was like, you know what? We should probably just find where the boat ramps are and just see what the distance is in the across the meter. And we're like, yeah. And then I made a joke. I was like, Spin's probably going to do that in the next 3 days. Lo and behold, 3 days later,
Yeah.
Spin puts up this. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And he did exactly what I hoped he would do in a span of 3 days. So I think it will be more like this, where they're going to start at a certain position. They're going to run around the lake until they get to an entrance point or a dock and just swim halfway across the lake to the finish line. I don't think it's going to be any cuter than that. It always could be. You never know with Dave, right? We also know that Dave is doing all the individual programming this year for the first time since 2021, which personally I'm very excited about. Adrian Bosman is doing the teams. But JR, for you, do you think it's going to be something like this, or would you like to see something else in this? Maybe, I don't know if I want to see a run, swim, run again, but what if it was like a swim, run, swim? I don't know. What do you think?
I think the way you describe it, with just a run into a swim to finish, one, it does something that we don't see very often, and that's an event end in the water, where you might see some people who really can swim close the gap on some others and truly empty the tank. But what I really like about just the run swim format is it lets both of the movements matter, but it also really, really, really punishes the bad swimmers, because if you're a bad swimmer, you're probably not confident in the water. And if you're not confident in the water, you don't want to jump in the water at a super high heart rate. So even if you're a good runner, you can't express it because you're just scared of what's about to happen. So I think that's really cool.
Bill, what about you?
I think this is very similar to what we've seen in some of the events, like in the early days of Madison and some of the later days of even back at Carson, where the old school thought, especially of Dave, was you had to have just a flat monostructural run. He likes running in there. And I think that we're not going to be cute in this particular one. One, because it's going to be off site. And so we're not really worried about what the broadcast view of that is going to look like, because the crowds may be kind of spread out all over. So they're not really he doesn't have to worry about that, but he gets to check the box of, okay, we get some distance in here. And I agree with what JR is saying. I think it's just going to be a straight run into a swim.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you think that's all it should be? Like, do we need to get 100%. Any more cute than that?
No, not at all. We got the rest of I think that we'll get cute once we get into the into the outside field and toward the Coliseum. Again, this is just to check the big box of, we need something long, and we need something monostructural, and we need to check the swimming off. And I think that's what they're going to do right here.
Dave said it's going to be a 3.5 mile run in the DB interview, which leads for that 800 meters across the lake, which is what most people have been thinking it could be. And Spin saying it's basically guaranteed to be this.
And I want it. I mean, in all reality, I want at least that 800 or 1,000 meter swim. Like, we're at the point now where the athletes,
anything less is it's not enough.
It's a waste of time. You're right.
And JR nailed it with that.
And if you are trying to make it to where they both count, you have to have a decent enough swim that it's like, okay, you're going to get your ass handed to you if you're not a good swimmer. Like, if you're a CrossFit Games athlete and you aren't a decent swimmer as of yet, you have no reason to be there anymore.
All right, I have one rabbit hole conspiracy for you guys. So this was the video announcement for the run swim. And so when I see this, sweaty, running with a hat on, right? And then then I see him with a shirt on and then jumping into a pool. So he's wearing two different things while he's running. Now, did he take the shirt off mid-run and toss it and get to the swim? Or was that sweat or was that lake water?
Well, then they also had the 3 segments right there.
Right.
The one at the top, the one in the middle, the one at the bottom.
I just wanted to bring an observation for the video. I'm still sticking with the lap around and across because I think that's the easiest way to watch and view and go from there. However, he is wearing two different things on the runs.
That's true. I'm hoping that it's just a straight run swim, and just check the boxes, do what you need to do, and just get out of the way. That's what I think.
I do hope the distance
on that long swim. That's what I want.
Yeah, I do hope the distance is significant to really have an impact on who wins this event.
Is that 800? Is it 800 meters across from that
one? For the one that Spin mapped out, yes.
Yeah,
just about. Right. So this right here is about 500. I think he had somebody like walk the course too, which was like really cool.
Do you think 800 is enough, or should it be 1,000? Like, are we at the point now where it needs to be 1,000? I kind of think it is, personally.
I do too. And what I look at when it comes to this is when you looked at the run swim run from 2017, it was a 1.5 mile run, 500 meter maybe swim,
300.
and a 1.5 mile run, right? That 1.5 mile run, somewhere between 9 to 10 minutes, right? Most of them are going a bit faster, but I'm saying on average, just to say 8 to 10 is the range. 8 would be 9 is exceptionally fast. So 9 to 10 there. The 500, if you're holding 2 minutes, is 10 minutes, right? Right. If you're holding between 1:30 to 2 minutes in open water swimming per 100 meters, you are a good swimmer.
Yeah.
You're not just a serviceable swimmer, you're a good swimmer. And then the 1.5 miles back. So when I actually tested that event at the CrossFit Games for Dave, and that was the basic feedback I gave him, is like, look, your time running and your time swimming are the same except for that second run. I think the way you have it structured, there's enough in the middle that's going to throw people off. Getting back to the run after a swim is going to be much different than the run before the swim. But with this distance, if you're saying it's going to be close to 3.5 miles, so we're looking at 20 to, it's like, let's say the range is going to be 20 to 25 minutes if they're hauling.
Yep.
Right. Well, a 1,000 meter swim, even if you're 2 minutes per, you're getting close to that 20-minute time frame, which I think is good. I like that hopefully it's a minimum of 800 as a distance. Somewhere between 800 and 1,000, I think is appropriate enough for this distance with the entirety of the field that they have taken the test. So yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I agree with what JR was saying about, if you do have a run at the end, then everyone's going to cruise the swim because they're going to try to use that as recovery rather than using it as a race where this is where they have to come in. So they're going to have to judge what they're going to do on the run. How proficient of a swimmer are there? I mean, you saw everybody and yourself, Chase, about when you're out of breath doing burpees or whatever and then having to swim, it changes how you swim. So I think that's going to be a big factor for a lot of the athletes, and I'm hoping that they hold it just like this because it'll make that swim really important.
One question here is, let me pull it up. Thanks for the question, Ian. The more you pay, the more we'll pull up your questions. Why don't we see a swim run later in the comp versus event 1? And I think that is simple as we have an entire field here to take this test or what the event is versus if we do it after cuts. Right? You want everyone to be tested in something like long distance running or swimming, something that is so, not I would say niche, but specialized. I think the whole field should be competing in that event. What do you guys think?
I agree 100%. Like 2019, when they cut to 10 and then did a swim, you're just thinking to yourself, yeah, it's a tiered scoring system, but wouldn't you want someone to have to take a 39th or a 40th if they were just abhorrent in the water versus taking a 9th or a 10th?
Now they did that in 2019.
And just mailing it in. Like, hey, I'm probably a 9th or a 10th. Why would I crush myself? I know I'm going to have to do more workouts. Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of take it. When no one's going to do that, probably, unless they just know they can't swim at all. No one's going to go into it being like, I'm just going to kind of cruise. This is probably a 39th or a 40th.
Right. And here's an example. If say in Pat Vellner's second place years outside of the ones when Matt was there, if they had put that as on the last day of the event, Pat probably would have won the CrossFit Games twice.
Yep.
Or at minimum once.
Yeah, because in that point in the weekend, recovery becomes a huge part of it. It's not just who's the best swimmer, it's who's not beat up.
Right.
And this is classic Dave. He always puts his long, drawn-out swim. I mean, there was one time we did a swim, I think it was on the second or third day, but like generally speaking, he likes to have this stuff in the beginning to get everyone a taste of it and then get into the more CrossFit-y type activities.
Okay. Next item on the bulletin board is the team event number 1. paddle boards are here for the first time. If I were doing this, I'd be like, man, I hope it's that big one. That is the biggest paddleboard
it's
Bill, what is
massive.
that? Is that like a Ocean to Catalina
No.
paddleboard? What is that?
No, that's a
boat.
homemade deal. Like the smaller one, which is gigantic, is your classic stand-up paddleboard. That big one, dude, this one
this
honestly
even
makes me
real?
very I think it was designed strictly for kind of like the Bob. This is the Bob. It's a sled for teams. It's a paddleboard for teams.
Oh my gosh! You know what this reminds me of, Bill? This
Yes,
big
dude, that
thing right
stupid
here.
sled they
This
had to push.
stupid rescue sled. They would make those
I
teams
know.
of 6 swimming in the ocean.
I saw this and I was like, oh no.
Are they going to put them? Are they going to put all 4 on that giant paddleboard?
Because look, you could put all 4 people on that thing. Everyone's standing up paddling.
That is the biggest thing I've ever. That's a boat. All it needs is a motor.
It's a
sail.
It's a floating dock with 4 people, and they're going to race. It's going to be the floating dock race.
All right, and the other thing is like, tell me Adrian Bosman is doing the teams without telling me, because we know that. I mean, we don't know, but we're pretty sure that Dave has said this very often, that he would not program stand-up paddleboarding for individual competition.
Never. Yeah, he said it's too niche of a skill.
Now with teams, with that being said, is that either Boz doesn't agree that it's too niche, or they've got plenty of time now to work on it. And for something like balance and coordination, they've gotten enough warnings to get actually good at this. Like, this is something you can figure out in an hour.
Yeah, but how? Okay, yes, you're going to have to try to. Everyone's going to have to adjust, but I guarantee you, like every team has a worm. No teams have a gargantuan floating dock like that.
I don't really think it'll be a 4-person paddleboard. I think it'll just be so okay. This will go into our predictions of what we think it could be. Do you think it's going to be as simple as just a single paddleboard relay?
No.
I think they're all going to be on that one.
You think they're all going to be on the big one?
Yep. Yeah. It's going to be a team row. Or team paddle.
That would be.
I mean, that you got you look at what it does though. It does check the box of, okay, you're not. This isn't about your weakest link. This is about the team as a whole, all working at the same time to do whatever work you're trying to do. And it's a very unique way to do that. The only time that they've ever done anything like that really is one that where they're all swimming in the water, which, okay, granted, that was one of the dumbest events that they've done, or it's the worm. This is a version of getting all the members on the team to work at one time and see what you can do as a team.
Yeah. I mean, that would be one way. Another way, and this is just where I would want them to be creative, is I don't know how long it takes to paddle. I'm paddling as faster than swimming would be. Is maybe there's 2 boards and one pair paddles across and then runs back to the start, while one pair runs across, waits for their paddle boards to get it back. And it's just when you're total team time collected, something like that. Something more creative than just swim across the lake with all 4 people on the big one.
I do have, I don't want to say it yet. I will when we get to the Farrington 5. But I think that this could be a water version of the idea that I had for the Farrington 5 when we get to it.
Okay. All right. So
it kind of makes me throw it off because I don't think they would do the same thing twice like that. But I just thought, looking at both boards, it gives me an idea like, well, maybe they could do it that way. So I don't know.
Do you think maybe they would say paddle as desired? So you could all sit, you could all get on your knees, or you could all stand, and you can do it however you want, but you don't have to be standing up the whole time?
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they could put everyone on their knees and have them paddle that way if they want. I don't think anyone will sit, but they could do like a canoe style or on your knees style.
Okay. All right.
But dude, that thing's giant.
Well, Spin was saying like that photo's from a year ago, and it fits 6. So 4 should be able to balance on it. Just like that thing's not tipping over. People might fall off of it, but unlike a single paddleboard, like that thing's not just gonna flip and throw you in the water.
Right.
Okay. Next question, and this has 2 parts to it. What do you guys think the twist for Chad is going to be? And the part B of that is, what is too much of a twist to where it's no longer Chad?
Personally,
that's my biggest concern of the twist talk.
Right.
Not necessarily from Dave, because Dave just says twist. Dave gives you no hints, nothing, but he says there will be a twist. The things I've heard other people say, I was like, that's not Chad anymore.
Right. And I think that because it was announced as Chad, I don't think that the twist will be something. I don't think the weights will be changed. I don't think that they're going to be doing like 1,000 steps up the stadium or anything like that. My personal thing is I think it'll be like regular old Chad, but they'll have it set up at stop gates. So like you race
stop gates on time
at numbers. So like every 200 steps or 250 steps. So you have to get there at a certain time in order to continue. And it kind of like Jackie, you had to make it past a certain time before you could advance into Jackie.
Okay.
The downside with that is, and what event? It's 6, right?
7. It's the first event on Saturday.
Okay, then I think that it's totally fine to do at that point, run your athletes through, and the further you get, the higher you place. And if you don't make a certain stop gate, then you get knocked out and you get dropped to the bottom. So it's almost like when they would do the relay, the sprints, like the knockout style.
Yeah.
That's the only twist I would think. Is that sort of a twist to where it matters where you're going, not changing Chad up, because then it's not Chad. And if they do anything different, then I hope they go back and retract all of the stuff that Jocko and everybody else saying that they were doing Chad, because it wouldn't be Chad.
Yeah. Jared, what about you?
Do you want the more reasonable one or the less reasonable one first?
Well, we want both.
Yes,
let's go less reasonable first.
All right, we'll go less reasonable. In 2001, the Stairmaster was programmed on CrossFit.com. It was actually programmed on .com more frequently than some people might
want
assume.
To think about. Right.
And I'm not taking cost into consideration. I'm assuming that someone would say, hey, we'll give you 40 of them for this event, and you can sell them all after you're done. Chad is 2,000 steps per time. Each step on a step mill is about 10 inches. Multiply it by 2. You can set the pace at whatever you want, just like you can set the damper on a rower. It's no less boring than sitting and watching a marathon row or a half marathon row. Chad could be on stair stepper.
Oh, God.
Are they holding any weight? Or they have their hands on like the rail like a classic stair stepper?
Hands would not be allowed to touch the rail.
Do they have to wear a G-string thong over their compression pants? Or since we're talking 1980s style?
Oh.
Yeah, so that would be the most the twist that would also be like kind of gimmicky, but kind of like, hey, you watch everyone row. So as long as they have a screen that shows where their placings are and the audience has a screen, like what difference does it make?
Yeah, they could do that like the row. You're right.
There's no judging, but I mean, I think that's really less likely. I think the most creative twist would be a reverse cut system where everyone races to 500 and whoever's the first 10, your places 1 through 10, you get to stop. Everyone else, you 30 go to 700. The top 10, you get to stop. That's 11 through 20th. Then everyone else goes to 900. And then the last 10 remaining have to do the full Chad, and they're probably the ones that get cut anyway.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And I really like that you went to 500 because we've been chatting and us is like, hey, every 100 cut 5 or something like that. But, 100 versus 900, like that's a big discrepancy. 500, much better.
Well, if you're going to do, especially if you're going to do a reverse cut like that.
You could do 700. You could go 700, 800, 900, and then the last 10 go to 1,000.
You do that, right?
So, yeah.
I like that because a lot of the times, the death by format or AMRAPs in competition, especially at the CrossFit Games, is you get penalized for being fitter than everybody.
Right.
In an AMRAP format. Even in a death by format, you get penalized being fitter than everybody. And we don't want to see that at the CrossFit Games. Great in a group class setting. Hey, who's the fittest person today for this one-off here this week? Fantastic. But the games, it's taking away from those individuals that are capable of doing more. And when they display their fitness, they're penalized for that with fatigue. This reverse cut concept, I hope that is the twist because some like 10 people are doing Chad straight up, right? And if you've been watching the videos with Dave Castro, by the way, congratulations to Dave Castro getting all the athlete interviews with 3 weeks to spare. I figured he'd be like a week in and he's like cramming in 20. Unbelievable. But when you talked, it's like, how many athletes have ever done Chad? By the interviews I had, is like maybe a handful.
Yeah, not a lot.
Maybe a handful, which was, did you guys find that surprising that so many games athletes have never done Chad?
Yeah.
I think if you're a games athlete, there's a couple things you have to have done. You have to have done Murph, you have to have done a marathon row, and you have to have done Chad. There's a longer list than that, but right off the top of my head, if you've never done those three, like what are you doing?
I'm just surprised that like that's one that they
meaning in the next 3 weeks, right?
Well,
I'm saying ever.
They meaning the high end CrossFit athletes, like that's where you join the community. Like it seems weird to me that like, okay, you're not doing CrossFit, you're not doing the CrossFit stuff, even just to do it, otherwise they've all done Murph. Why do Murph and not do Chad?
Yeah,
no, it's weird.
I like the stopgate twist. The only small twist I have, which is where like I could see Dave doing this, is saying twist, and there actually is no actual twist. Is like the twist is every 100 steps you have to move your pylon, and it gets further away from your box down the floor, and that's it. But I think here's the: do you think all 40 or 80 should be doing this at the same time? Because it's the same height. It's just a different weight. Just like we had for the marathon row in 2018.
Yeah, I think they can totally do it. I mean, like if they're moving everybody around, that's one thing. If they're trying to like,
I don't think it should be heats. I think it should be one heat of men and one heat of women.
It's too long. It's too long. The marathon row, we had everyone going at the same time.
Yeah.
Do the same thing here. I mean, it's a long event, and I don't think you would have like mega exciting races to the finish where you're going to be battling between what camera to be on, and if you do, it's going to be one shot on the men and one shot on the women. You know what I mean? Like it can very easily be done, and I think that would set up the broadcast, and then also be able to allow the athletes to do their thing and then get out of the way. Check it off the list.
I'll get to this question, and I'll get to Halpin comment real quick. Is 13 athletes said they did Chad of the 79. 25 of those interviews that happened without the announcement. So, all right. More than I thought. Of course, I haven't got through all of them yet. The question is from Megan East. I think maybe the twist is having family members of Chad and people from the nonprofit or family of veterans who've taken their life on the field.
Oh, I mean, that's cool to honor them.
Honor,
cool.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the twist.
Yeah.
That would be the honor, not the twist. I don't know.
Yeah, and Chase, like you asked what twist would make it not Chad, which I think is a great question, because unless they're doing 1,000 step-ups at 20 inches with 45 and 35 on their back, I don't think they're doing Chad.
Right.
If they did step-overs, and that would be great from a subjectivity standpoint, and you could still move the boxes, and it would be a little bit faster, there'd probably be more intensity. That's not Chad if they do step-overs. It's not.
No.
And maybe that is the twist. It's something as simple as that. I've
seen this one as like every either time stop, like every 10 minutes, do some type of monostructural movement. Like I've heard like runs or a row, and that's where I'm like, now we're not doing Chad anymore, right? We don't want to. I don't think we need to infuse so much difference and then still call it Chad, because if we're doing Chad to honor Chad Wilkinson, and I know Sarah, like I've worked with Sarah. Is if we're doing that, then I would hope we don't stray too far away from that where it's not even that anymore. The last one I was thinking about before we move on to the next one is, what if it was an AMRAP in a sense? It's like, hey, we're doing Chad, but we're capping everybody at 45 minutes. Do you think that would be too much of the issue that we had just talked about, having that reverse stopgate where some people will do a couple, it could be as much as like 100 to 150 more than other ones. Like if you know you're going to suck at Chad, like why blow up? But it's a cut.
It is a cut. I think that with the announcements that was made, with Jocko getting on the Instagram and saying, we've all done this and we all know what it feels like. And we have all done, I don't think it's going to be anything other than 1,000 regular step-ups. And you go from there. The twist thing, however, I think that twist will solely be either a regular cut on the way up or a reverse cut like JR was talking about on the back end of it, or having some sort of a time stop gate. But anything other than that, even capping them.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they should cap them.
I think the best twist is that reverse stop gate concept. We've never seen it before. It incentivizes.
Well, what I like about it is that, like, okay, even if let's say you're last, you're not doing 500 step-ups, okay, or even if I like the 750 actually, and break it every 100, because then at least that way you aren't doing a lot more work than the people that went faster than you. Granted, they pushed harder, they had a higher work capacity, higher intensity, all that, but the idea of 750 or whatever, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, I really like that, because then you're only doing 300 more than everyone else if you're last, and that's not going to break you, or it's not going to it'll penalize you for the score, but it won't penalize you for the rest of the competition.
Yeah, and I don't know, just something about Dave's, something about his smile, when he was listening to Pat's concerns about the subjectivity of the movement, about, I think, talking about the eccentric loading of stepping down from the box every time, just pounding on the joints.
Yeah,
I think the twist might actually be a twist, and we'll just be left saying, that's really cool, but is it really Chad? I don't know.
Okay, what about this? The twist is that you are doing a box step over, but you're standing up all the way and you have to turn around when you get up top. So you're literally twisting. They put twist.
Dude, so you have to open the hip, but then you have to turn.
Yep. And you're still doing a step up and a step down.
Mm-hmm.
It's classically a step over, yeah, but you're twisting. So you're always facing the box.
Doing Chad alone after quarterfinals is already oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Let's triple down on the step
That's
up.
funny. That's pretty Dave, right?
Right.
That's 2015 Murph into 2016 Murph.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you guys thought that was done? We're doing it again. Now we're going to do it better than we did the first time. But well, what I like that nobody has said before we move on is nobody said a heavier bag. I don't think it needs to be
No.
It doesn't need to be 90. Like, if you really want to potentially put athletes in a bad spot, yes, by all means, make it heavier. I don't think that's necessary, or raise the box height. Okay, next one. This one will have a lot of things. Is Friday night, as designated by Dave in the CrossFit Games, simply called Individual Event 6, Field Sprint, Rest, 1,600-meter run, as the Friday Night Light event in Farrington Field, which everyone can attend for free. I think 8 p.m. or later is the times that people are hearing out there, which honestly, as someone that lives in Dallas-Fort Worth,
not any cooler.
Push it back as far as you want to, unless we're putting it on ESPN. And then whatever time windows that we have available for that. But for this one there's one extra piece to this, and that is this piece of equipment that was added, 4 days ago? And it says IE6 implement, the Happy Star. And this is basically a rogue sandbag built in a Lone Star in the Texas flag. And up here at the top says 170 pounds. Take that for what it is. But what do you guys think that the event would be, and how will this be incorporated in the event?
Go, JR.
Yeah, I think after seeing the team announcement, and we'll get to that, but I think there is some cohesiveness that Dave and Boz want. You have the teams on a lake with a paddleboard. You have the individuals on a lake swimming. You have the teams running some sort of 4x4 relay with what looks to be maybe a odd object sled push. you have the individuals doing an odd object carry into a mile of running. So there is some like common denominator there with some of the stimulus between the events. So I think this is as simple as everyone's on one end of the field, 3, 2, 1, go. They sprint the length of the football field. They get the star. They carry it back. They drop it. They sprint back to the start line. Or it's a down and back carry, rest into a mile. I'm trying not to get super creative with it because I think the stimulus is supposed to be fast and nasty, who can recover, and then who can run hard.
I actually think it's interesting that they wrote the rest in there. Right. Which makes me wonder what how much rest, or like why put that in there? I mean, it seemed like it'd be very easy to not do something like that. The other thing is it says event 6, but is that 2 events, or is that a 6 and a 7? Is that a 50 points for part of it and 50 points for the other part? It's hard to see what they would do with that. But the way I saw this was we already did the long running. So I saw it as you line everybody up widthwise on the field. So you got everyone going at the same time, and you have your star at the one end of wherever you start. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have everyone do just a plain sprint. Like we've seen Dave's program before with the sprint hurdles, the classic Dan Bailey losing his glasses, jumping over the hurdle, going down to one end, a quick turnaround, break, and then running back. I think this will be the sprint is simple as you sprint across the field, around a pylon, and back. And that's your one sprint. You have your rest, just back, cross and back. That's it. All right. Then, whatever the rest is, 1 minute or whatever the time frame is that they're going to do it, I'll say 1 minute on this. Everyone has their star, and that's what they do the carry with. They run the mile with the star. Now, Dave did say, someone actually had it in the comments too, that like the 170 that was on there, maybe it's not 170. So it might be lighter than that. And I part of me was thinking before I saw the 170, what I was thinking was Texas shootout. Who can carry the bag the longest? So like as you're running, whoever drops the bag, then you're out, and you're out of that event. So you're being forced to carry that, which would obviously you need to change weight. I also wasn't really comparing that to what the Chad type of thing would be if everyone was doing like a dropout sort of thing on that same sort of deal. But I thought that something like that would be kind of cool. We haven't ever seen that where everyone's on the floor at one time, and it's like, okay, well, who lasts the longest? Okay. So it's like who goes first or whatever. So either something like that, which I think would be fun, or every time you drop the bag on your mile carry, you have to do 5 burpees or something like that over the bag or something. Yeah. And then that's your 1 mile run. I don't want them to do a straight 1 mile run and have a carry on the sprint part, because we already did all the running around the lake and everything like that. Not that it's exactly similar, but I think that it's they'd want to do something more with that run.
Well, that'll be a question on Around the Whiteboard after this show. So by the way, 200 of you guys watching the show, thank you. We're glad to be back. If you guys haven't subscribed, please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 before the game starts. We've got 3 weeks.
Come on, guys.
We got 3 weeks to get 250 more people on board. All you got to do is just hit subscribe. We won't even bother you too much. Yes, we will. This from T-Bird real quick. Would the rest be when the teams go? We know the teams will be going that night. Could be. I would like to see the sprint and rest and 1600 meter run all in one piece, where the sprint is going to have more of an effect on the run.
Right.
The thing I was thinking it could be, and Bill, I'm with you, is, okay, do we want... I like your width across. I think across might be... God, what's the width of a football field? I should know this. It's like 50. 35 yards. Is it 50 yards?
I think 50. Yeah, 50. Yeah, 50.
Someone will tell us. Somebody from Texas should know this. I should know this. But my first thought was, well, are we going to have all 40 people do this mile? Now, if they were carrying it, maybe not as bad, or it could be worse. Or if they're all sprinting at one time, are we going to do heats? What I could see is you can put basically one person, say you're doing heats of 10, right? One person on every marker here. We're going the width. You have the star 3, 2, 1, go. You go from your mat, you pick up your star, you sprint it across the field, you drop it into the alpaca sled, you push the sled down, you turn it around, you drop the star in there. There's handles, and you pull the sled back, and then you pick that star up and you run across the finish line. I want the star involved as much as it can be. If you're going to make, you know how hard it is to make a star? I can't even draw a star on a piece of paper without doing like the elementary school crisscross 5-point thing, right? To make a sandbag star and put the Texas flag on it and the nod to it being the Lone Star State, I hope it is used for more than just down and back once. Even Bill's idea of just like carrying it for a mile, to me, like that's a CrossFit Games twist. Because of all the chatter of like, oh, we've got a distance run in the first one, are the same people going to win on the second one? Who knows? The swim's going to have a greater effect there anyways. But a carry with the star, I think is cool.
And that's kind of a capital thing too. You know what I mean?
It is. All right. Now, what I could also see is them just blowing you up, taking a break, and let's just call it at the 5-minute mark, right? Start at 0, sprint down, push down, pull down, sprint down. At the 5-minute mark, everyone lines up and we hit the mile. And so people are hitting the mile under fatigue and blown up, and now let's see how fast you can go. Because then I don't think it's the same people that are going to be winning the 3.5-mile run going into that without the bag and just having a clean mile run. That's what I think it could be. I hope the star is used in a really meaningful way other than just being just out there. Although we did see that in like the Madison Tri-Plus is like they made a yellow sandbag and they just like threw it over a few times, but nobody really paid attention to that.
I think the cool thing with the star, I mean, obviously the nod to Texas, but it does allow for a lot of different ways to hold it as well. So kind of like the Husafeld bag, it was a different carry than carrying just a sandbag. So like technically, depending on what the weight is on this, you could do it, in the front. You could do it maybe like to your shoulder. It's hard to tell how big.
And I think if they're doing a mile, just like don't put constraints.
No, like carry it however you want. And so with this, you now have a lot of different options. You know what I mean? So doing it to whether you are penalized when you put it down, again, I think it's going to change depending on how heavy this is. So if it's a shootout style where the last man standing is the winner, or your time if you have people that make it all the way, or if it's a certain weight and you want them to be pressed and every time they drop it there's a penalty. But this way, you're right, carry it however you want, on your back, in the front, on the shoulder, whatever.
All right, would you rather, final thought here, and then we'll move on to the team comp. Would you rather the star be used on the sprint and not the mile, or have a free sprint and make it on the mile? Like, would you rather have the sandbag on the sprint or the sandbag on the mile?
Personally,
if you could only pick one, would you rather be sandbag, clean run mile, clean sprint, sandbag mile?
Clean sprint and then sandbag mile, because we need a sprint, a pure sprint. That's what I think.
JR?
I'm going to answer this from the standpoint of it being scored as one, so like a 50-50. And I think if the sprint is too short, it weighs way too heavily on the hundredths of a second mattering. So I think it should be carry with the bag into a clean run.
I would like to see, which one would I rather have? I have a bigger fear of it being underutilized on the sprint.
Yeah.
And plus I was like, man, how brutal would it be to watch people just carry that thing for a mile? Like, to me, that's a Dave thing. Look at the events we've had so far. Chad, and all Dave talks about in every interview is the mental grind that Chad is. Physically, every one of these athletes is going to be perfectly fine. The biggest problem that these athletes will have is either they do not have the aerobic conditioning that they need to be successful here, or two, they just don't want to go to that place to be successful in the event. The same thing happens for long distance running. The same thing happens for swimming. Swimming is a bit more of a high skill, but still, you're out there in the water and you just get to the point where you just don't want to work that hard anymore. I could see the same thing coming out, and this is classic Dave that we haven't seen in a couple years outside the Capitol, of you're doing a mile with this thing. Every one of you guys will be able to complete this mile. However, only the ones that want to win this event will.
What was the distance with the objects carried at the Capitol total?
About 200 meters farmer carry and 200 meters ish, right? Ish.
Of the Hoodspell bag? Okay, so and that weight, the weight on that was 200?
It was 100 in each bag for the men and think like 80 for the women. And then it was a 200-pound bag for the men. And was it 150 for the women?
Something like that, yeah. Okay, so if this weight is lower, I could very easily see a mile carrying this bag.
I've done a mile with 100-pound sandbag on my shoulders before.
Okay.
Like a time trial. And it was awesome. Like, it was just such a brutal experience.
That's what I see.
All right.
A bunch of stars cruising.
Man, I mean, look, if I wanted the star utilized more, I'm going to have to go with clean sprint. And the sprint could simply be across the lengthwise, where it's like a 50-50, 100, 150-50. So it's a 300-meter shuttle sprint.
Real fast, you guys.
Which honestly, is a conditioning test in the NFL for teams.
Totally.
And soccer players.
Do you what do you think, or what would you rather? Event 6 is one scored event, or are they each scored separately?
That's a great question. For the fear of people thinking the same people might win the same events because it's running, not knowing how things will be used, a combo score. I think I'll go combo score. But should it be 50-50? It's so different.
I think it's got to be 50-50.
Do you want 50? Now, do you want 50 and then a separate 50, or how you place in each one combined together?
Combined together.
Yeah. I'd rather be combined together.
I'm inclined, because we have an event 7 listed as event 7.
Thank you, Stephen. True.
I'm inclined to say that this is going to be one scored event, and I hope that they do placings added together. I know that Dave in the past has programmed the sprint as its own scored event multiple times. You know, even whether they've done cuts on it or whether they did the hurdle one or whichever. We've seen that. And so I could very easily see him doing that. I just don't know what they would do with the titled individual event 6 and having two things listed on here.
Yeah. All right. That's a good one. All right. Moving on. A team event has been announced. Let's see. I have so many of these tabs open. Here we go. Now, here's where, pull this up. Now, this is Team Event 6, but it has a name, the Farrington 5, which is called foreshadowing for our later question for this group. But this is a 5x400 meter relay. Now, when you look at that, you're like, okay, well, there's 4 people on the team. A 4x400 meter relay, meaning one person would sprint around the track because it'll be on the track, but not 5. I don't think one person is running an extra 400. There's a picture of the Big Bob, or Bob. I think this is just Bob, because Big Bob was 6 people.
Yeah.
Bob. That means there's an extra 400 meter out there. What are you guys going to do with it as far as what you think this could be? Jerry, I know you've already had some ideas for that.
Yeah, but I mean, I talked to Spin yesterday, and he just kind of enlightened me. And I told him, if this isn't the event, it's what it should be with the information we know. And that's A1, A2, A3, A4 all have to run a 400. The team waits at Bob. 15 teams across, width-wise on the field. The field is 50 meters wide.
Yes.
They run a 400. push down and back. Athlete 2 runs a 400, push down and back. You end up with 4 400s, and you make up the 5th 400 with the 4 down and back bobs.
I hope that is exactly what it is. Because back in 2012, they did a 4x4, or it was a 6x400 meter relay with the team. They all ran 400, all 6. And then when they were done, they had the big bob. And what they did when everybody was done, they pushed the big bob down the soccer field lengthwise. And then they had ropes and they pulled him out and they dragged Big Bob all the way back. I think it was 2 different scored events, the relay and then the drag, but there was not a lot of time in between. I would rather yours be the case because that's going to require so much more strategy into play where it's like, okay, who should go first? Will they be fine for the 4 bobsled pushes we have that they'll have to do? Middle, last, who's doing caboose? I love the width down and back because it's not going to be a drudge of a 100 meters down and now where do we go? Down and back makes perfect sense. I think that visually that'll be super cool. I don't want to think of another option of this other than just like getting upset.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't want to be a 4x4. Everybody goes and then they push the bob back and down the field 4 times to get the extra 400. I love the interjection of that between every 400. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I had the exact same idea. I saw the bob as the relay baton between athletes. So someone runs all the way around. You have the 3 sitting there waiting at the bob. When they come into their lane, they hop on and they all push it down. They push it back, and then the next person goes. And you're right. I do think what it changes is not who is your fastest anchor runner, but how do you put your 3 strongest people at the end so that they can push Bob the fastest back and forth across the field. So I think it's an interesting change of ideas, a twist there, I guess, of trying to think what the strategy would be rather than the classic 4x400 run strategy. So I think I can't see it being any other way. It doesn't seem to make any sense. And if it is, it would be extremely boring.
Yeah.
I like it.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I like that one, Joe. Good.
Okay, next one. And this is the one where the everything went wild is what could be potentially the new movement that is coming to the CrossFit Games this year. It was an interview with Lisa Fuliano, and she had asked Dave if there's going to be a new movement. Not necessarily a new piece of equipment, because we've seen that too. Could be A and B together. New movement. And Dave said, in Dave's way, and there's a couple things that I wanted to latch onto here because this is the whole point, he said it's not new to the CrossFit Games, but it's something we've seen in the past. And does that mean, is it something we've seen at regionals or the open, or I'm not going to say semifinals because it hasn't been standardized programming. Of course, that would negate my second part of this. That we haven't seen at the games yet, which there are a few movements that are still on the table. Or is it just something that we've seen in the past in our history, like wall walks have been, that came into the open, that will now be brought to the main stage on a movement? So what movements do you guys think are on the table that could be either we've done them in the past in competition and now we're bringing them to the CrossFit Games for the first time, or it's been a rich part of our history as far as the CrossFit training methodology, a la a wall walk, and are we bringing that into the CrossFit Games?
I've been saying this one for a long time and waiting for something like this to come out. 2 for wall balls.
You have been saying that for a long time.
I mean, it's an old school movement. It's been on the CrossFit main site before. I know that there are issues about how you judge it or what you need to do as far as judging it or whichever. But as far as like a movement goes, I see something like that. I still like the idea, and I said this last time when the 3 of us were on the show, and I said the Jacob's ladder rope climb sort of thing where you just have to climb to a certain height. I would love to see something like that, but that's more a piece of equipment rather than a movement. So I'll say 2 for wall balls.
I will continue to follow up with that. I was like, there's no way that it's going to happen.
I mean, there's always a Turkish getup that you always talk about too.
Yeah, true, right?
But I like the only way I could see that ever fit was if they're going to do it as a strength piece, and I don't know if Dave would Boz maybe. I don't think Dave.
That's a good point. Now that we know Dave's like in the driver's seat, I was like, oh, my dreams are dashed.
Yeah, you'll never have Turkish getups ever again.
My Turkish dreams are dashed. Don't worry, I'm not going to pick Turkish getup, people.
What do you think, JR?
I mean, if we go strictly off of his quote, which was like, new to the games, yes, but not new if you've been around a while and you know, then like to me, I have to narrow it down to something that's either been programmed in competition, like at regionals with a barbell and dumbbells, so a bench press at the games, because it's never been actually at the games, or it's a movement like knee to elbows. Because when I was looking through 2001, 2002, and 2003, dude, the amount of times, like it took 3 years, I think, for toes to bar to come out. It was always knees to elbows, always. And it was like 20 times in 2001, knees to elbows were programmed. Dang. So like, I don't see something like a med ball clean, a foundational movement, even if you do it with like a 50-pound knee ball. I don't see anything like that OG or like a hip extension ever making its way into a competition. But I see, I mean, dude, touch your knee to your elbow. If it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. Like I could definitely see something like that, or something like a bench press for sure. The only other one really that, I kind of like just wonder if he would ever try to do, it can't really be described as new though, is like putting a barbell sumo deadlift high pull at the games. Because the only time it's ever been at the games with a heavy kettlebell. So, I don't know.
That was one of the first ones that jumped off. I think bench press probably, if you're placing bets in Vegas, might have the best odds of coming in, because yes, we've done it twice at regionals, as you said, one with a bar, one with dumbbells in the same workout, as far as like regional Linda is concerned.
So you think like wait, real quick, do you think like the new total?
You mean like
to use the bench press?
The other total?
The other total, yeah.
Because we've seen that in quarterfinals.
We haven't done it in the games though.
Right.
Which would allow for bench press.
I would love for the other total to be the strength.
Cool.
That was the one-off strength event, the other total, sign me up.
They need to rename that to the CrossFit total.
And we should rename it the CrossFit total, which that with 10-foot wall ball targets and Briggs
and Briggs, Sam Briggs,
30 ring muscle ups for time. Like that is a drum we have been beating since the very beginning. And if you guys don't know what the other total is, it's a 1 rep max overhead squat, it's a 1 rep max bench press, and a 1 rep max. Is it just clean?
Clean.
It's clean. Anyway, I would assume. And at the games, just say anyway, just get rid of all the fluff, right? I would love that to be the strength test. So to see bench press come in there in that format would be fantastic. I have a sneaky feeling that it could be sumo deadlift high pulls. And JR, as you said, is like we had it in that long chipper. What was it, 2015 regionals?
At
regionals.
I think
15
or box jumps.
Yeah.
I think it was 15. And with the box jumps and the mile on the runner to start things off, and it was just that was a tough one to watch. And it was like 135 and 95, I think, was on the bar for 50 sumo deadlift high pulls with a barbell. But then 2011 with the finisher, or the final, it was a heavy kettlebell, which I personally like and think kettlebell sumo deadlift high pulls are easier to judge and do, which means why wouldn't Dave bring in the barbell at the CrossFit Games with something like a sumo deadlift high pull? I think knees to elbows is a great one as well. I doubt anyone has done legitimate knees to elbows unless they have someone like myself, Bill, or JR in their gym making sure it's not knees to triceps. But and then how many people have done filthy 50 the right way?
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And could that be it? Well, no, I don't want it to be it. I don't want 50 double unders at the end. It's already driving me nuts.
And then for me too, like I think about movements like triple unders. Like I remember the video of Tommy Marquez doing them, like with sunglasses on and those. I think he was wearing Reebok pumps, and like that video was made forever ago, and it's one of those polarizing movements that either you think it has a place or you think it should never have a place. But now that the crossover double under has made its way, I think people will argue like which of the two would you rather see? So I think something like a triple under is possible, but I mean I think we'll get to it. And I don't really know if you can say it's new because the teams did do a seated start strict L muscle up to a support.
Yeah.
But like going with the predictions of like an Amanda variation on Friday night, I've kind of been saying all along, I think it could be that seated L muscle up because it brings the strict muscle up back, which is one of the few movements that has been at regionals but not the games. But it takes away from enough of the judging to where that could be the movement that they do with snatches or whatever.
I hope that's it, and it's with a version of Amanda.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Because it was JR, you said this Friday night at the CrossFit Games in 2010 when it was just a 3-day competition. It was the first event of the CrossFit Games in the new tennis stadium.
Right.
And then in 2017, when we moved to Madison. And was it the first event at the Coliseum that year?
Friday night. Yeah, first
Friday
event.
night.
Yeah.
Amanda 45.
Amanda 45.
Now we know Friday night is going to be at Farrington Field. However, the first night we will be in Dickies, not necessarily the first event. Right? Although we don't know how many events will be on Thursday. We know one will be off-site. So Dickies Arena, first event maybe. Could be, yes, low ring muscle ups where the only way you can actually do it is from an L sit. And athletes have had enough practice with strict muscle ups, seated legless rope climbs. Like these two things are all, they did it with the teams just to get on top of the rings. They did it in the open with nasty girls-ish, but they need to make them much lower than that. I mean, some people can still kip when they did those things. And if you mix those together, I would think just go back, instead of more volume with the same movements that they did with Amanda 45, go back to the original volume of 975 and just up the weight on the snatch, 185 and 135, like we saw with first cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. All right. I like those. What do you hope it's not?
Shuttle sprints.
Triple unders. That is my vote. I hope it is not triple unders.
Pullovers.
Pullovers. Well, we've done pullovers.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm hoping it's not. Oh yeah, new one, new event. Yeah.
I really don't. I don't want to see a new standard for like an L pull up because that's been around for forever. That movement, and I just think it just gets too. It just gets.
I think the L muscle up is a cleaner way to do it. Honestly,
for sure.
I agree.
It's in the level 1. I mean, how much more deeply rooted we've seen this before do you want to get than an L sit ring muscle up? It's in the dang level 1.
And honestly, like it is easier than a regular strict muscle. It is. So,
it is. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't think you'd have to mess with the rep scheme for the women or the men. I think you just leave it alone. Like I think it's I think that would make a lot of sense being the new to the games but not new type movement.
Okay. Now this is a what do you think will happen question before we get to our final question, which is a user submitted question, by the way. We do read these things, and when you come up with something good, we either make a show out of it or we bring it on to the show. Is simply, are we going to now Dave's fully in charge again, right? In 2021, Dave got rid of event names. They were all IE1, which is individual event 1, IE2, IE3. And every time I make a Jeopardy question and I have to go back and I see it's IE6, and like nobody's going to guess this because it doesn't say Strongman's Fear. And we know when that was or what it was about. In all of the announcements for individual events, it has been individual event 6, individual event 1, individual event 7. That is all they've put on these things. However, when they announced what the team event could be, as we just showed you guys, it's called the Farrington 5, which we know Boz brought the names back when he took over the programming in 2022 and 2023. Now that Dave's back in individual, I have yet to see one named workout outside of Chad, which has a name and there's nothing you can do. Like, don't change the name. Do you think we're going to lose the event individual names and go back to the IE whatevers? And would you rather have the names? Like, do you guys like the names for the individual events and the team events versus just like IE1, IE2?
Obviously, like the names. You're connected to the names. Like, you just like when you said Strongman Sphere, I remember watching Matt Fraser dive through the finish line with Brent Fikowski. It conjures up the race. There isn't any IE number where I instantly in my mind think of this cool finish of this cool race. I'm hoping that they have the names on here just to not give away what the event is. I'm afraid that if like he uses what the name is actually going to be, that it'll give away what the event's going to be. So like maybe event 6 is the sprint shootout. So that they're doing a shoot, they're doing the sprint across, and then we're doing the last man style run carry with the bag. It's something like that. I'm hoping that that's the case because I can't see them doing, even though each of them are programming one for the team and one for the individuals, that it would be like totally sleep apnea.
What's I mean? The real strongman's fear is sleep apnea.
I can't see, teams having names and individuals not having names. It doesn't make sense.
It's actually you're putting me more at ease with that explanation.
You're welcome.
But I feel like this is. What is it called? The Mandela effect, that I thought this was a thing and it actually never was. And I just had this in my mind. Is like, I thought they announced Muscle Up Biathlon before it ever happened, or Naughty Nancy or something like that before they ever told you what the workout was. It was just like, this is the event name. You're not going to get the event details.
Right.
So I think they've done that in the past. However, I hope that is the case. I love the team names.
Totally.
I don't want to go back to IE whatever. Because it brings, as you said, it just brings more of a spirit to it.
It gives it life.
Connection.
It gives it life. It gives it a personality.
It gives it a personality. When you hear the Capitol, every single person who watched that live or did that in person or were there to watch has an emotional tie just to that name.
Yeah.
Instead of 2022 IE5. It just doesn't land. And I know it has nothing to do with how people complete the workout or how the event unfolds. But man, when we talk about entertainment, spectacle, history, endearment, the names go a long way, in my opinion, outside of just what was written on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like at the regional level, using numbers is fine. You only have to remember 6 or 7 of them. So it's not, and I mean, within a week, everyone's memorized them anyway, what's on what day, whatever. But at the games, like, one, naming them a clever name is an art. And Boz was so good at coming up with cool names. Yeah. Like, dude, Hat Trick. Dude, just why it was named that. Like
to work.
Yeah, dude, like, I mean, the play on shuttle to overhead instead of shoulder to overhead, like, dude, that's like really good. Like,
back 9.
I was thinking just having the job of a name, like, hey, here's the workout. Will you name this for me? Would be such a cool, like.
That was one of the funnest things we did. That was one of the funnest things we did in Dubai when we came up with the names for that. We had roundtable and it was so fun.
Bill named
Acid Bath was mine.
Like, Bill created that name.
That's awesome. See, and that's iconic. Like you guys say, it does lose a little bit of the luster if there isn't a name. Now, some names are not clever, and it's just like,
you don't like ski bag,
muscle up logs, ski bag, what muscle pig? It's like, oh, they have muscle ups and pig. Like, some names are definitely more clever, but I think you still need them to talk about.
Here are Boz's names from 2022. Bike to Work, skill speed medley, Elizabeth elevated, which I thought was great. Keep the name in there, like nasty
It
name.
is. Right.
Shuttled overhead. All right. The Capitol. Beautiful. Up and over. Echo press. Rinse and repeat. Hat trick. Sandbag ladder. The alpaca, which had a rich history with Boz and the way he like grew up programming, which I thought was really, really cool. The back nine and Jackie Pro. Back nine for me might be one of the more clever ones he put in there. The back half of the weekend, you're right near the finish. There was 9 reps. I was just like, damn, dude, that was.
It's all posterior. Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like, it's good.
So I hope we get those back. Because then I click over to 2021. Cool.
Hey, let's agree that if they don't do the names, we do a show where we all come up. We all come up with our names for every one of the workouts.
Yes,
that's great. But we need to get we need Taylor on the show. Although we have to have like a censorship warning. Pedro, we need the whole gang.
Yeah, we just go through. Okay, event 1. I'll reveal your names. Yeah,
and cool. Then we can have people vote on what the best names were.
Yes, exactly.
And then, so not necessarily like who had the best overall names. It's like, all right, everyone we go through, vote. The audience has to pick it. And then like, all right, that's event 1. And then we move to event 2.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Now I hope he doesn't do it. No, I hope he does. I hope he does. That's a great idea. All right, that's a great idea. So I hope they keep the names. I am a bit nervous about it. All right, it's 11:43. Okay, we got time. We got Pedro's going live, guys. 250 of you. If every one of you guys subscribe to our channel right now, we would hit 5,000 people. I'm just saying, if every one of you did, just hit subscribe. We would get to our goal of 5,000 before the CrossFit Games. All of you watching, thank you so much. Sincerely, from the bottom of our heart. It means a lot for you guys rolling with us. We were gone for 2 weeks. I was worried if we'd ever get back to good. Although if JR disappears, so will everybody else. Okay, thank God he's back. If you guys want to watch Around the Whiteboard, which is coming up in 15 minutes from now with Coffee Pods and Wads, stay here and it'll take you directly to them. Okay? It'll take you directly to them. All right, our last question, which we'll wait for JR to come back. But we had a user-submitted question, and let me pull it up because I want to make sure I get this right. This is such a good question, and we talk about this all the time when it comes to cuts at the CrossFit Games. But I want to give them their due. I want to make sure I get their name right. Jonathan, no. Maddie? It's on my phone. But the question was, we have our first cut at event 7, which will be Saturday morning, which will be Chad. There he is. Which will be Chad. All right, JR, the user submitted question. We have 6 events before we get to Saturday morning, and the 7th event being Chad, we will have the cut. We know event 1 will be a run, swim of whatever it could possibly be. Event 6, a sprint plus a mile with something with the happy star. Event 7 being Chad. That leaves 4 events unknown going into a cut. Now, we've always said is that if you're going to cut, it needs to be as a complete test as possible to cut the field going into this. And the question I got from Alex, which is just AJ_CrossFit, is how would you guys program 4 events that you would have before that cut to have a balanced test before you get there? Which I thought was an amazing question.
Cool question, yeah.
So we have 4 events unknown. Run, swim, total of 4 miles. We're thinking somewhere around 30 minutes plus, right? A 30 to 35 maybe minute time frame. We'll just say 30 to 40 for whatever's sake. All monostructural. Sprint into the mile, possibly with a sandbag carry, right? What I'm assuming sprint is something south of 3 minutes, if not something that's like 30 seconds. Could be with the bag, could be not. And if it's a straight mile, we're talking 4.5 to 6 minutes. But still both monostructural, however you want to call the carry. It technically is weightlifting. JR, I've always loved your horizontal displacement is almost like a different category. I've really, to let you know, I love that, and I use that myself when I program now. And then you have Chad, which again, is that monostructural or is that weightlifting? Technically, it's weightlifting because you're moving an external load, but it's attached to your body. So does that count when you're running distance with a weight vest? A lot of events are very similar that we know of right now for the individuals. What 4 different things do we need to see before we get to that event or post-event 7 cut?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think the biggest flex from a programming standpoint is when you can program single modality and people don't really notice it because it's such a well-rounded test. Dave has done that a lot in the past. You think back to what a lot of people consider the hardest day of CrossFit history when they did the crit, 30 muscle-ups per time, the total, and then the half marathon row.
Marathon row.
Marathon row, sorry. And people remember that, but they don't think about how it was all single modality, 4 single modality in the same day.
But different ones, which was beautiful.
Right. I think he should do 2 more, and then he should do 2 classic CrossFit. So just for instance, the other total is 1, 30 rope climbs per time is another one, and then 2 CrossFit workouts that are like MWG or just classic, maybe a back-to-back, like, whatever, weightlifting, gymnastics. But that's kind of what I see. I see a very, very dense gymnastics test, single modality, single movement. I see almost the same thing on the weightlifting side. And I mean, I think back to 2016, they did the snatch ladder at semis. I think they're going to do the squat clean pyramid at the games this year. And I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if it is, because I still think they could do the other total or something like that and then still do a speed strength test like that. But I mean, Dave kind of likes his history and he likes his flow. And if we're like, oh, we did the 2016 regionals version, maybe we do the games version of clean. But something like that, I think, is what we'll see. And then we'll see just some like good old fashioned CrossFit.
So if you go back to, let's see, 2018, day 1, right? This isn't even before like 7 events of cutting. Day 1, 20-minute bike event, sub 3-minute ring muscle up gymnastics, CrossFit total, so WMG, and then we finish with the marathon row, which is pushing 3 hours. Mm-hmm. The 3 events that we know now is a 30 to 40-minute run swim, a potentially 50 to 60-minute 1,000 step-ups, a sprint of some sort, and then a mile, which is, again, 4.5 to 6 minutes, right? So much lower time domains on average than throwing obviously you throw a marathon row in there. What I think is, I meant to put these in here, sorry. What I think, if I'm looking at, especially taking off what we've talked about, obviously if we're going to speculate, I want to throw those in there. Okay, event 1, run swim. Whatever event we have Thursday, maybe it's just 2 events because we got a morning one and we want to get people in the evening. That an Amanda-ish couplet with rings and snatches. Okay, that is going to take what, 5 minutes?
Yeah,
5 to 7 maybe if you start failing, but potentially just as fast as maybe we'll see faster times than that than we saw in 2010. Who knows? Probably not. Okay, that's 2. So a third one, throw in the other total. So now I'm over at squatting, bench pressing, and cleaning. So you have those 2. You've got your strength combo, which is a great combo, 3 different movements where one's not really going to take over the other. A bench press might, actually. So I have 2 more. I think those should just be like classic CrossFit workouts. Maybe one's an interval workout or event, or just somewhere in that classic 12 to 15-minute time frame, triplets. Maybe one of them's a chipper. But you get that heavy weight in there. You've got a high-skill ring move. You've got a high-skill barbell move, the highest-skill barbell move you have, which is a squat bench. You got heavy weights. You got sprints. You got a mid-distance run, long-distance run and swim, step-ups. 2 classic CrossFit events, that 12 to 15-minute time frame to fill that out. And I think you can – look, if we can – send people to the CrossFit Games in 6 events, we can cut people at the CrossFit Games in 7.
Hell
if we do it
yes.
the right way.
Yeah. Well, and you have a lot of room to
And it's
play
only
with.
10. By the time you get to 7, you know who the bottom 10 are.
Sure.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah. And I agree. I had the other total in there for a weightlifting and then a heavy volume gymnastic. 30 rope climbs, like that's heavy. I was thinking more like actually doing the Samantha Briggs, doing the 30 ring muscle ups into the 30 bar muscle, or the bar muscle ups into the ring muscle ups, something like that. Same idea. I think that what we haven't tested with the athletes that have come up is a dense gymnastic workout yet. We've seen barbell cycling, we've seen some long stuff, but we haven't really seen a true high skilled, high volume, heavy duty gymnastic event. So we need pure strength, which would be the other total, which I would love to see anyway. We've done the CrossFit total twice. It's time to do this other one and actually welcome it as our true total. Have that gymnastic event. And then you're right. I think the other 2 spots that you're going to be filling would be, I do like the interval style, something to where it's going to be, almost like a 2-2-3, 2-2-2-3 sort of a setup where you're getting some really high intensity. Not crazy volume, but some high intensity out of it. And then I'd say a classic, 8 to 12 minute GWM before we actually get into the cut.
Yeah.
I say we'd have to stay away from any long events because we've done so much of that already on the other. On the
15 minutes, I think max. That should be left
by far max. I mean, maybe that's a time cap. But that's not what everyone should be hitting. I don't think even.
Yeah, and they're doing Chad the next morning. Like, I mean, they're going to blow their legs up. However, they're going to blow them up on event 6.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and then the next,
the
next morning, they're going to do Chad. So
that's a good point.
I think it needs to be, the movement selection needs to not just trash the legs for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, that's a good point. That almost makes you want to rethink the. Well,
make them. That's when they climb the ropes, or that's when they do all their.
I can see them. I'm going way back to the Farrington field now. Is like, are they really going to do a mile carrying that bag, and then the next morning wake up and do 1,000 box step ups with a bag on their back?
Right.
I'm still gonna say yeah, and here's why.
I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it.
Well, I don't think like the legs will be tired, but it'll be different. It'll be a different tired of like rather than like squatting, a bunch of squatting. You know what I mean? It's like you're on your feet, your calves, your joints will feel that, but I don't think that like the muscles will feel, not for these guys. And it also depends on what that bag weighs. I mean, if it's 100 pounds, that's one thing.
Yeah.
If they can put it down whenever they need to, that's another thing. So they can kind of regulate that stress.
Okay, last question. By the way, Alex, thank you for that submission. That's fantastic.
That was good.
Do you think we're going to see something like Cindy? Dave keeps asking these athletes. I don't think we'll see Cindy.
I think if he did something like a 20-minute AMRAP of 5 bar muscle ups, 10 bench press at 135, 95, and 15, whatever. Dumbbell squats, front squats, wall ball, whatever you want to put in there as the 15. And he just calls it Games Cindy. I think it would be cool. Yeah.
I like that. I know some people have talked about like just upping the skills, but like, well, that's called Mary. We've already done that.
Right.
I don't want to see that again. But then again, the worry is like, all right, games, AMRAP tests. How are we going to? It's like, should someone get 360 reps to win something, or is it more like 180 and the rest of the field was somewhere between like 120 and 150?
Sure. I hope that he doesn't. With the reason being that he's excited, and he said this, I'm really excited and I'm fired up to be back in the driver's seat. I don't think he would just scratch one off and put in named workout.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that even an upped version of that. No. Even an upped version of that. I think that he got to get in there and play again. And I think he's going to want to play with some stuff.
All right, my version of Cindy, to add on to what JR was, is like, I'm a sucker for a WMG triplet. So if you're doing 5 bar muscle ups, 10 bench press, and 15 pounds on the echo bike.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Right? You're getting upper body pull, upper body press, leg with no rest for the upper body.
Right.
And make it like 135. It doesn't need to be 185. Not for a 20-minute AMRAP, or make it 15 or whatever you want to do, but like something like that where there's one element of each modality, each of it, like 5 bar muscle ups after 5 or 6 rounds is nothing to just like bat your eye at after you've been doing all that bench press.
Do you think we need 20 after long run, long swim, Chad?
No, I don't
whatever
think
mile.
That's what I said is like make it 15.
Okay. Oh, all right. So
Make it
you
15
just
and
kind of compress the intensity of that.
Exactly. It's like now you can't just, because everyone's like, all right, do my 5, get to the bar.
I'm great on a half Cindy, dude.
10.
I fly. If my
that
half
was the
Cindy,
regional event in 2010 was a half Cindy weight test.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. But all right, JR, I know you're a busy man. Thank you for your time, your brain,
timing.
your expertise,
So
and your looks, as always.
So fun. Yeah, especially this look. Yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. I doubt anybody I have yet to see one comment about that in that.
Well,
so
good.
your good looks offset your missing tooth.
Yes,
That's how good looking you are.
My list wasn't that bad. I got you.
All you guys watching, again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. You're getting us closer to 5,000 before the CrossFit Games. And all of you guys watching, again, thank you so much for rolling with us. We hope you guys enjoyed the fun prediction show that we had. CrossFit Jeopardy should be coming back on Friday, so stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. When we stop, it should take you right to Coffee Pods and Wads, which is starting in 2 minutes for his Around the Whiteboard show. So thank you guys for rolling with us. Let us know in the comments what you guys would like to see with these implements or new movements or what we could possibly have for the team competition. Other than that, Bill, JR, appreciate you guys so much. See you guys later this week. Take care.